Time is slipping through our fingers, faster than the seconds on your clock right now. Out beyond the orbits of Mars and Earth, an interstellar stranger is racing straight toward our star, defying every law of comet physics we thought we understood. Instead of fleeing the solar inferno, it's doing something impossible, firing a jet of gas directly into the sun, as though provoking it. And the name etched across every observatory's feed tonight is 3IATLAS, an intruder from the void between stars, the third interstellar visitor humanity has ever recorded. No one expected its arrival. No one can explain its behavior, and as each telescope locks its gaze upon it, the questions multiply faster than the data can answer them. What kind of object dares to aim at a star? What kind of chemistry burns against the grain of solar wind itself? Hold that thought, because as we unravel this together, you'll begin to see why some experts behind closed doors have stopped asking what it is and started asking how we survive what might come next. Take a deep breath. Look around you. What time is it where you are right now? And where in the world are you watching from? Drop it in the comments below, because tonight, across every time zone, we're witnessing something that could rewrite how we see the cosmos itself. If you're new here, don't rush to hit subscribe just yet. Stay with me through the next few minutes. Once you feel the weight of what's unfolding, you'll want to stay connected, because what's happening behind the sun isn't just science. It's a mystery gripping every mind that dares to look too closely. Picture it. You've spent decades studying comets. You know their rhythms, icy fragments from the outer dark that light up as they near the sun, their tails streaming away in magnificent arcs. They are nature's windsocks, obeying radiation pressure and magnetic flow like banners in a cosmic hurricane. But then, one night in July 2025, the Atlas telescope in Chile captures an image that breaks the rule book in half. A plume of gas, 6,000 kilometers long, blasts directly toward the sun. Not away, toward. The astronomers double-check the calibration. They reprocess the data. Still the same, an outward-facing jet that shouldn't exist. It's as though this object refuses to be ruled by the solar wind. And from that single frame, the shockwave spreads across the scientific world. Within hours, the James Webb Space Telescope swings its infrared eye toward the anomaly. Hubble joins in, the Gemini Observatory in Hawaii, the Very Large Telescope in Chile, even amateur astronomers with backyard rigs, all focus on this single traveler. And night after night, the impossible tale remains. Some call it an error, some call it a miracle, others whisper something stranger, something designed. Because if you think of comets as the solar system's sailboats, then 3IATLAS isn't catching the wind. It's firing into it like a harpoon aimed at the heart of a star. And that, right there, is where our story begins. What is 3IATLAS really? To understand why this one object has turned the scientific world upside down, we need to peel back every layer, its chemistry, its movement, its origin, and what it might be hiding. Because the deeper we look, the stranger it becomes. The James Webb Space Telescope, our most advanced eye on the cosmos, turns its infrared instruments toward this visitor. What it finds makes every astronomer on the team pause. The readings don't match any comet ever catalogued. Normally, comets are dominated by water ice, the frozen remnant of ancient clouds that birthed our solar system. But 3IATLAS, it's almost pure carbon dioxide, releasing gas at a ratio so high that it borders on the absurd. That one clue alone tells us something fundamental. This thing isn't from around here. It didn't form in the same nursery as our planets and asteroids. Its chemistry screams alien origin, not in the sense of green beings and flying saucers, but in the truest meaning of the word, foreign, from another system, forged under conditions no human has ever seen. Astronomers start piecing together possibilities. Maybe it formed in a star system colder than ours, where even water froze solid before carbon dioxide ever condensed. Or maybe it's so ancient that cosmic radiation has stripped away every lighter element, leaving behind only the heavy frozen gases, like a fossil drifting through the dark for millions of years. Some even suggest it could be the fragment of a planetesimal shattered during the birth of another star. But one thing is certain. Whatever its history, 3IATLAS carries the fingerprints of a place we've never visited. And that brings us to the next shock, its distance and heat response. At over 3.5 astronomical units from the Sun, way out near Jupiter's orbit, 3IATLAS is already releasing water vapor. That shouldn't be possible. At that distance, the sun's warmth is too faint to melt water ice. Yet telescopes detect hydroxyl emissions, the unmistakable spectral fingerprint of evaporating H2O. It's as if there's a hidden furnace inside it, a heat source that no model can explain. Could it be radioactive decay, chemical reactions deep beneath its crust? Or is the heat coming from something else? Something that doesn't belong in the natural order of things. Observers begin to notice other irregularities. The brightness of the object fluctuates erratically, as though it's spinning, but not like a normal tumbling comet. Its light curve doesn't follow the usual pattern of rotation. Some frames suggest controlled bursts, brief accelerations that appear to counteract its motion, as if it's adjusting its course. That's when the whispers start. What if it's not a comet at all? One scientist says during a closed session at a European Space Agency briefing. What if it's a machine, something built, not born? The idea seems absurd, and yet, the data won't stop misbehaving. Let's break it down in simpler terms. A comet's coma is that glowing halo of gas that forms when sunlight vaporizes its icy surface. It's what makes a comet visible in the first place. Normally, the coma grows as it nears the sun, the tail stretching away due to solar radiation pressure. But in 3IATLAS, that coma seems directional, focused, almost as though it's being aimed. That's when Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb, already famous for challenging scientific taboos, steps into the conversation. He points to the anomaly and says something that divides the scientific world right down the middle. If this jet is intentional, then we are not witnessing a comet. We're witnessing propulsion. Think about that for a second. Propulsion. An interstellar object adjusting its trajectory. The very idea makes your pulse quicken, because if it's true, we're no longer talking about a rock that stumbled into our solar system. We're talking about a visitor, a construct, something that might have been sent. Now, to be fair, there are natural explanations too. Maybe the jet is the result of rotational spin, a vent on the surface spewing gas each time it faces the sun. Or maybe a fracture exposed a patch of volatile ice that vents periodically. The problem? None of those models explain why the jet points toward the sun with such consistency, or why it appears to maintain direction over weeks. The evidence stacks higher. Observatories in Chile, Hawaii, and Spain confirm that 3IATLAS is following a hyperbolic trajectory, meaning it's not gravitationally bound to the sun. It's a one-time visitor. It came from the interstellar dark, will swing by and then disappear forever. Its speed? Nearly 60 kilometers per second. That's fast enough to escape the sun's pull completely. So why is something moving that fast? Slowing down, you see, if an object like this were natural, its path should remain mostly unaffected by anything except gravity. But 3IATLAS is showing small but measurable deviations. Its trajectory is shifting, just enough to suggest a force other than gravity at work. A gas jet could do that, but the pattern, the timing, makes it look almost deliberate. Imagine this, a probe, drifting between stars for eons, reawakening as it nears a light source. Systems boot online. Sensors ignite. It reorients itself toward the sun, releasing a stabilizing jet of exhaust. From our distance, it looks like a comet with a strange tail. From up close, it might look like a machine remembering its purpose. Far-fetched, absolutely, but consider the alternatives. If it's not artificial, then it's a natural phenomenon so unique that it redefines comet physics. If it is artificial, then we've just detected the first interstellar technology in human history, and either answer is terrifying. By this point, speculation online explodes. Forums, Reddit threads, and deep space YouTube channels ignite with theories. It's a harvester, one user writes. It's collecting solar energy. Another says, it's a failed probe from a dead civilization. Yet another whispers the chilling possibility. It's a trigger. Something meant to wake the sun. It always begins the same way. A scientist alone, late at night, sitting beneath the cold hum of laboratory lights. Outside, the sky stretches endless and black. Inside, the glow of the monitor flickers across tired eyes as data scrolls endlessly down the screen. And then, something changes. The curve on the graph dips where it shouldn't. The jet's emission pattern shifts a fraction of a degree, but not randomly. It's rhythmic, pulsed, timed. The scientist blinks, zooms in, checks calibration again. Nothing wrong with the instruments. The pulse is real. One long burst. Too short. Pause. Then again. Coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe it's something worse. That's how the whisper starts. not on Reddit or in tabloids, but inside research labs, among people who are paid not to imagine things. They start running simulations, playing back the data, and something cold coils through the room. This isn't random venting. It looks encoded. Now, before you drift too far into sci-fi territory, remember that science thrives on what-ifs. Every great discovery began as an impossible idea. Einstein once asked what it would feel like to ride a beam of light. That single thought changed physics forever. So when a handful of astrophysicists start asking, what if this comet isn't a comet? You listen. A name comes up again and again. Avi Loeb, the man who dared to suggest that the first interstellar visitor, Oumuamua, might have been a light sail, an object propelled by starlight itself. His critics mocked him, but here we are again, with another interstellar intruder doing something that defies the laws we live by. Let's imagine just for a moment that 3IATLAS isn't a frozen relic, but a machine. What would a machine do out there in the dark? Perhaps it's a collector, a solar harvester designed to gather energy from stars it passes. Think of the sun not as a threat, but as a target. A living nuclear furnace radiating 386 billion megawatts every second. If you could capture even a fraction of that power, you could run a civilization for millennia. Maybe the jet we see isn't defiance. Maybe it's efficiency, a cooling vent releasing excess heat while the probe charges its reserves. Or maybe it's a signal injector. The sun's magnetic field stretches billions of kilometers, a canvas of charged plasma and tangled lines of force. If you wanted to send a message across the galaxy, you wouldn't need radio waves. You could use the sun itself, modulating its flares, altering its pulse ever so slightly. To anyone watching from afar, those magnetic ripples would stand out. A beacon written in light. But there's another theory, darker, harder to breathe through. What if 3IATLAS isn't harvesting or communicating, but provoking? Picture the sun as a massive ball of restrained chaos, its magnetic fields wound tight like springs. A small disturbance, a pinch of new charged material, a localized reconnection, could unleash an eruption far greater than the sum of its parts. A coronal mass ejection so vast it could knock out satellites, burn transformers, and blind the night sky with auroras bright as day. Now imagine that disturbance isn't accidental. If someone, or something, wanted to test our star, to measure its response, they wouldn't need a fleet of ships. They'd need only one device, perfectly timed, carrying just enough mass and charge to poke the sun. And maybe that's exactly what we're seeing. Of course, the mainstream explanation fights back. Skeptics argue it's just geometry, a vent facing the sun by coincidence, a rotational wobble creating the illusion of control. Maybe 3IATLAS spins like a slow bullet, each rotation pushing gas sunward for a few minutes before turning away. Natural, harmless, explainable. Yet every time someone runs the math, the coincidences multiply. The vent would have to open at precise intervals. The spin would need to match the outgassing frequency. The chemical ratios would have to stay constant despite varying exposure to sunlight. At some point, the odds bend toward intention, so the debate splits into camps. On one side, scientists who demand evidence. On the other, thinkers who say the evidence is already staring us in the face. We just refuse to recognize it because we're afraid of what it means. And honestly, maybe they're right. Because if 3IATLAS is a machine, it means somewhere, sometime, intelligence arose, built, launched, and succeeded in crossing the void between stars. It means we're not just observers of the universe. We're participants in someone else's experiment. Now here's where it gets unnerving. Compare 3IATLAS to its predecessors. Oumuamua in 2017. Cigar-shaped, tumbling, accelerating without visible exhaust. 2I Borisov in 2019. Comfortingly normal, a comet through and through. And now this. Carbon-rich, jet-directed, sun-aimed, each visitor stranger than the last. Patterns emerging where patterns shouldn't exist. If you were designing probes to study different kinds of stars, wouldn't you make each one unique, tailored to its mission? Some stealthy, some obvious, some experimental. Maybe Oumuamua was the scout, Borisov the control sample, 3IATLAS the active phase. That's speculation, yes. But speculation has a way of catching up with reality. Because here's the detail most people overlook. 3IATLAS isn't just approaching the sun. It's modulating. Its brightness rises and falls not randomly, but in intervals that match the sun's magnetic oscillations. It's syncing, aligning, almost like tuning an instrument before the concert begins. You start to wonder, what happens when the note finally plays? By now, the online community is ablaze. Data analysts stream live feeds. Amateur astronomers track every pulse. Theories multiply like wildfire. Some claim it's a fragment of a Dyson swarm, a piece of a long-lost megastructure still following old programming. Others insist it's a derelict probe, reactivating after eons of dormancy, its purpose forgotten. And somewhere, far from the noise, a handful of physicists stare at the data in silence, knowing that if even one of these theories is half true, it changes everything we know about cosmic solitude. Because if this object is artificial, the question isn't what built it, it's why now. The Sun is reaching solar maximum, its most unstable phase. If 3IATLAS wanted to study or trigger magnetic chaos, it picked the perfect moment. Coincidence? Maybe. But sometimes the universe hides its patterns in timing. So the scientists keep watching, the amateurs keep streaming, the internet keeps speculating, and you're sitting here still listening, heart thrumming a little faster than before, wondering if that faint shimmer in tonight's sky could be something alive in its own mechanical way. The Sun. We wake beneath its light every morning, take it for granted, and forget that the glowing disk above us is a nuclear engine large enough to vaporize entire worlds. It's stable, most of the time, but stability in cosmic terms doesn't mean peace. It means balance, and balance can be broken. To understand what 3IATLAS might do, we have to first remember what our star already can do on its own. 93 million miles away, the Sun is not a ball of fire. It's a roiling sea of plasma, its surface boiling at 5,500 degrees Celsius, its core burning at 15 million. Magnetic fields twist and snap across that surface like invisible serpents. Every second, it fuses 600 million tons of hydrogen into helium, releasing energy that races outward in a storm of radiation and charged particles. And sometimes, it erupts, solar flares, massive bursts of energy, can release as much power as 1 billion hydrogen bombs in a single flash. Coronal mass ejections, or CMEs, are even worse. They hurl billions of tons of plasma into space at speeds over 1 million miles per hour. If one of those waves is aimed at Earth, it can slam into our magnetosphere and shake the planet's electromagnetic field like a bell. In 1859, that happened. The Carrington event. Telegraph wires burst into flames. Operators were shocked unconscious. Auroras danced over the Caribbean as the atmosphere itself glowed. If the same event struck today, the results would be catastrophic. Satellites disabled, power grids fried, GPS down, air traffic halted, communication networks silenced, billions of people suddenly offline. Now imagine something, anything, making the Sun more likely to do that. Here's where the timing turns sinister. We're entering solar cycle 25, the peak of solar activity, expected around late 2025, the exact window when 3IATLAS reaches perihelion, its closest point to the Sun. In other words, the Sun is already at its most volatile, and now an interstellar wildcard is approaching it at 60 kilometers per second, venting material that shouldn't even exist. Coincidence? Or a catalyst waiting to strike a match? Let's break it down in physical terms. The Sun constantly emits a flow of particles called the solar wind, a river of charged protons and electrons stretching billions of kilometers into space. It's not strong enough to push planets, but it shapes the entire heliosphere, carving out a bubble in the galaxy around us. Now, picture 3IATLAS entering that current, outgassing carbon dioxide, dust, and possibly metallic ions. When those charged particles hit the solar wind, they don't just vanish. They interact. They change density. They warp magnetic lines. They introduce new sources of conductivity that can amplify or disrupt plasma behavior. It's like dropping dye into a moving river. You see turbulence, eddies, ripples spreading far beyond the point of contact. If the comet is venting enough material, especially charged carbon dioxide, it could, in theory, disturb local regions of the Sun's magnetic field. And the Sun's magnetic field is not peaceful. It's a network of wound tension, waiting for an excuse to snap. Now, let's talk about magnetic reconnection. This is one of the most violent processes in physics. When magnetic field lines get twisted and forced together, they can suddenly break and reconnect, releasing enormous amounts of energy. That's what powers solar flares and CMEs. Imagine the energy of millions of nuclear bombs, all detonating in plasma so hot it glows ultraviolet. Could 3IATLAS trigger that? Probably not directly, The Sun is 1.3 million times the size of Earth. A comet, even a large one, is a grain of sand in comparison. But complex systems are fragile in strange ways. Sometimes small disturbances can produce massive reactions, especially if the system is already unstable. The Sun, during solar maximum, is the definition of unstable. So here's the uncomfortable truth. We don't know what threshold might exist between harmless and catastrophic. If 3IATLAS injects material into the solar wind, even at microscopic levels, it could act as a spark in a dry forest. Most of the time, nothing happens. But once in a while, under perfect conditions, one spark ignites the whole sky. You might think this sounds impossible, but remember, Earth itself has been shaped by cosmic coincidences. A single asteroid ended the age of dinosaurs. A single solar flare could end the age of satellites. And now, we have an interstellar object doing something no one has ever seen, right as our Sun reaches peak volatility. This is where scientists start whispering in careful tones. Words they rarely use publicly. Non-linear response. That's what makes it scary. Because non-linear means unpredictable. A system that reacts disproportionately to small changes. A butterfly flaps its wings, and a hurricane is born. So let's ask, if the Sun did react, what would happen? The worst-case scenario isn't that the Sun explodes. That's not how stars die. The real fear is an enormous CME, a superstorm that engulfs Earth's orbit head-on. It could overwhelm our magnetic defenses, inducing electrical currents so strong they melt transformers and short-circuit entire continents. Power grids could collapse within minutes. Internet cables could fry. Satellites would be lost. In hours, the world could fall silent, not through war, but through light. And that silence would stretch on for weeks, maybe months, as technicians scramble to repair systems that require machines now offline to even manufacture. Most scientists say this outcome is unlikely, but even they admit the word unlikely doesn't mean impossible. That's why 3IATLAS matters, not because it will crash into us, but because it's a cosmic variable entering a system already at its limit. Because every model we've built assumes the Sun behaves in isolation. But what happens when it's not alone? Now imagine something even subtler. A scenario not of destruction, but of change. What if 3IATLAS releases elements that seed the solar plasma with new isotopes? What if, years from now, we discover the Sun's chemical balance slightly altered, its output shifting fractionally? You wouldn't notice it day to day, but climate, radiation, auroral activity, all could evolve in ways no one predicted. And if you're thinking that sounds far-fetched, remember this. Life on Earth depends on an energy flow so precisely tuned that a 1% change in solar output could freeze or burn our planet. That's the scale of balance we're talking about. So when you look up at the Sun in the coming months, remember, its light has always been steady. But for the first time, something out there is challenging it. And here's the irony. 3IATLAS doesn't need to do anything dramatic. All it needs to do is exist, move, and leave behind data so strange that humanity has to rewrite how it understands its own star. But we're not done yet. Because if 3IATLAS isn't a threat, it might still be a message. Every great story in astronomy has a countdown. The closer an object gets to the Sun, the more dangerous, and the more revealing it becomes. And for 3IATLAS, that countdown isn't measured in days, but in heartbeats. Each observation brings it nearer to the solar inferno, where truth and myth burn together. Around the world, telescopes are no longer working in isolation. For the first time since the detection of Oumuamua, humanity's observatories operate as a single synchronized network, Earth's nervous system pointing its eyes toward a single speck of moving light. At the European Southern Observatory in Chile, engineers calibrate adaptive optics to track the faint blur that defies sunlight glare. In Arizona, the Large Binocular Telescope runs on triple shifts, its operators living on coffee and adrenaline. At NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, a command screen glows with a single phrase, perihelion window, T-minus 37 days. You can almost feel the collective tension of a planet holding its breath. But there's something strange about this countdown, something psychological. No one admits it out loud, but every scientist feels the same quiet pressure. We might never see another like this again. IATLAS is already becoming the brightest interstellar object ever recorded. Yet it's not behaving like a comet. It's predicting its own brightness, flaring before simulations expect it to. It's as if it knows the sun's rhythm better than we do. Maybe it's reacting, one astrophysicist murmurs during a late-night briefing. Maybe it's anticipating solar activity. Someone laughs nervously. No one corrects him. Back in Hawaii, an amateur astronomer live streams his latest footage. The object appears faint, just a point of light, but it pulses, ever so slightly. Once every few minutes it flares and dims, the way a heartbeat might echo in metal. The stream fills with comments. That's not natural. Looks like a beacon. It's talking to the sun. The chat scrolls endlessly, a digital frenzy of fear and fascination. And among those millions of eyes staring through their screens, you might be one of them, watching, waiting, wondering what it all means. So pause for a moment. Tell me, where are you watching from right now? What time is it in your world as you listen to this story unfold? The sky above you might look quiet, but somewhere out there, beyond the horizon, this silent traveler is still moving, still glowing, still getting closer. The global science community begins to fracture under the pressure. NASA holds an emergency coordination call with ESA and JAXA. They agree to share data in real time. Every image, every spectral analysis, every pixel of observation must be transmitted and verified within hours. But secrecy seeps through. At a classified briefing in Maryland, military representatives ask a different set of questions. If the jet is propulsion, can it change direction? If it's artificial, can it see us? If it reacts to energy, what happens if we aim radar or lasers at it? No one has answers, only silence. Meanwhile, social media feeds are now dominated by a single hashtag. Sunprobe. Conspiracy videos go viral overnight. Some claim the object is part of a long-term experiment involving solar weaponization. Others insist it's alien, reconnaissance, mapping the magnetic field of our star before. Something bigger. And through the noise, real scientists try desperately to keep public focus grounded in fact, but even they are shaken. Because now, the solar wind itself is reacting. Telemetry from the Parker Solar Probe shows a sudden rise in charged particle density in the region ahead of 3IATLAS. It's as though the sun is leaning toward it, feeding the space around it with invisible currents. Then something even more alarming. Radio interference. Deep space communication bands near the probe go silent for 14 seconds. When signal returns, it's scrambled, distorted by interference patterns no one's seen before. Theorists scramble to explain it. Plasma turbulence? Magnetic overlap? A coincidence? But those 14 seconds stick in everyone's mind, because 14 seconds in deep space communication is a lifetime. As perihelion approaches, the headlines grow darker. Solar storm warning, CME expected to hit Earth in 72 hours. New data shows 3IATLAS trail aimed directly at the sun. Has humanity just witnessed the first interstellar engine? And yet, amid the fear, there's awe, pure, childlike wonder that humanity is alive to witness something no civilization before us ever could. In classrooms, teachers play live streams for students who stare at the ghostly white dot on screen. In temples and churches, prayers are whispered, not for protection, but for understanding. Even the most skeptical minds feel something ancient, stirring. The feeling that perhaps the universe is alive. And tonight, it's looking back. At 11:42 UTC, just 16 days before closest approach, NASA releases a high-resolution composite image from the solar orbiter. The photo shows a structure so breathtaking that it stops the world for a moment. Atlas, seen against the solar backdrop, has developed a glowing arc, a filament looping backward toward its own tail. It's not natural curvature, it's symmetrical, controlled. It looks deliberate. Within hours, news anchors across every continent are asking the same question. Is it maneuvering? But scientists don't answer. Because as the object nears the sun, every observation starts to blur. The light becomes too intense. The magnetic interference too strong. Instruments flicker, sensors glitch, and suddenly, a chilling new problem emerges. we're losing the signal. The data begins to fade. Frame by frame, the object dissolves into the glare. And when the last clear image comes through, 3IATLAS is gone. Not vaporized, not shattered, just vanished. The countdown stops, the world waits, and that's when the sun begins to change. There's a particular kind of silence that follows the loss of a signal, not the quiet of night or the hush of space, but the silence that hums with absence. The data stream that once filled screens with color-coded patterns suddenly turns to flat lines, static, and waiting. And that's where the story of 3IATLAS takes its sharpest turn, because for the first time since its discovery, no one can find it. The timestamp reads 07.16 UTC. At that exact minute, every telescope trained on the inner solar orbit reports the same phenomenon: blinding interference. Instruments meant to filter solar glare suddenly spike into saturation. Radiation sensors trip automatic safeties. Even deep space detectors positioned millions of miles apart register the same signature, an electromagnetic surge that doesn't match any known event. Then, like a curtain falling, 3IATLAS disappears. Some claim it's burned up, vaporized by solar heat. Others argue it's gone behind the sun, lost temporarily to our line of sight. But the trajectory data doesn't agree. The orbital path predicts a clean pass, no contact, no collision. Even if it disintegrated, debris should have been visible. But there's nothing. No fragments, no reflection, no dust plume, nothing. At NASA's Solar Dynamics Lab, analysts stare at monitors in disbelief. "Check the filters," someone mutters. "They're fine." Then why is there nothing? No one answers. The European Space Agency's solar orbiter transmits one final packet of telemetry, a burst of magnetometer readings moments before blackout. Inside that noise, buried under solar interference, is a repeating oscillation, something rhythmic, almost musical. A pulse every 4.3 seconds. It's too structured to be random. A team in Switzerland begins decoding it, convinced it's a harmonic from the sun's natural vibration. But a data scientist named Nico Karras notices something off. The pulse doesn't match solar frequencies. It matches the earlier venting pattern of 3IATLAS itself. The same rhythm, the same interval, now echoing inside the sun's own field. That's when people start to whisper the unthinkable. It didn't vanish, it merged. Suddenly the sun's image, normally steady on real-time monitors, starts to shift. Minor anomalies ripple across its surface. Bright arcs flare at unexpected latitudes, synchronized in strange, almost geometric patterns. Observatories from Japan to California confirm the same. The sun is flaring, but not randomly. Each eruption occurs exactly 4.3 seconds apart. Coincidence? Or continuity? The world doesn't have time to decide. In less than 12 hours, radio interference spreads globally. Satellites in low Earth orbit begin reporting data corruption. The global positioning system drifts by milliseconds, enough to confuse navigation networks. Airline systems falter. The International Space Station switches to backup mode as onboard radiation detectors spike. Still, astronomers can't tear their eyes away from the sun. In the hours following the disappearance, something extraordinary begins to unfold. An expanding ring of ultraviolet radiation encircles the solar surface. It's faint at first, visible only through specialized filters, but growing fast, like an echo of something vast rippling outward. NASA calls it a solar boundary anomaly, but unofficially, people start calling it the halo. At the same time, strange phenomena appear on Earth. Shortwave radios pick up bursts of unexplained static, repeating at the same 4.3-second rhythm. Amateur astronomers report faint auroras over regions far too warm for them: Mexico, Egypt, even near the equator. It's as if the entire magnetosphere is vibrating in tune with something unseen. In an emergency briefing, NASA's Solar Science Division convenes to interpret the data. The lead physicist, Dr. Elena Rojas, delivers the assessment with visible unease. "We may be witnessing a resonance event. The solar field appears to be amplifying an internal signal. We don't know its origin, but the timing coincides precisely with 3IATLAS's disappearance." "Are you suggesting it's inside the sun?" a voice asks. She hesitates. "I'm saying the sun is responding. Outside, the world continues to run, oblivious. Children walk to school. Traders watch stock tickers. Somewhere, someone laughs over coffee, unaware that 150 million kilometers away, their star might be humming a song from another world. And then, at 3IATLAS UTC, a second event. Solar observatories record an unprecedented flash, a full-spectrum flare that lights up every detector across the electromagnetic range. For one brief instant, the sun burns brighter than it has in recorded history. Satellites blind, cameras white out, and for 7 seconds, the entire world bathes in light just a little too intense to be comfortable. When the sensors recover, a new feature appears. A dark spot near the solar equator, circular, perfect. Unlike any sunspot ever seen, it radiates in the opposite polarity of its surroundings, as if something beneath the surface is pulling magnetic lines inward instead of pushing them out. Dr. Rojas stares at the image and whispers, "The line that defines this moment in history, something just entered the sun." Speculation explodes again. Did it burrow into the corona? Was it destroyed? Or did it transfer its material, its signal, into the star itself? No one can say. And yet there's one final anomaly that refuses to go away. The rhythmic pulse that started at 4.3 seconds slows. 4.4, 4.5, 4.6. As though the beat that once belonged to 3IATLAS is fading, sinking, integrating, becoming one with the heartbeat of the sun itself. It's no longer an object. It's a pattern. And patterns don't vanish. They spread. Across observatories, radio arrays, and deep space probes, faint echoes of that pulse begin to appear, some in plasma data, others in background radiation. The same frequency, the same rhythm, everywhere. As one researcher writes in his private notes, it's no longer just in the sun, it's in the signal. And if that's true, it means the vanishing wasn't an ending. It was the beginning of something vast enough to use the sun itself as a medium. It begins as a whisper, not in the vacuum of space, where sound cannot travel, but in the faint hum of instruments designed to listen to the universe's heartbeat. For weeks, the data stream has been saturated with solar noise, chaotic, unpredictable, beautiful in its violence. But now, buried beneath that chaos, something regular begins to pulse again. 4.8 seconds, then 4.9. Then, precisely at 5.0, a perfect interval, stable, controlled, intentional. At first, no one notices. Most systems discard it as background interference. But in a small room at the Deep Space Network in Canberra, Australia, an engineer named Amira Patel is reviewing flagged anomalies when she sees the pattern align. It's faint, but unmistakable. A modulation repeating through multiple frequency bands. She cross-references data from Madrid and Goldstone, thousands of kilometers apart, and finds the same signal embedded in each. The timing is exact. Could be interference, she murmurs, but then she freezes, because the signal isn't traveling from space to Earth. It's being reflected by the sun itself. Within hours, her discovery races up the chain of command. NASA, ESA, JAXA, all are alerted. The analysis begins. Algorithms dissect the pulse, separating natural harmonics from structured patterns. And what emerges shocks even the most skeptical minds. The signal isn't random. It's encoded. Binary fluctuations, long, short, long, followed by a sustained modulation resembling phase shift keying, a method of data transmission used in human communication. It's as if the sun has become a transmitter, amplifying something far more complex than plasma turbulence. Dr. Elena Rojas is called back to brief the International Science Panel. Her voice trembles, not with fear, but awe. If our interpretation is correct, we're detecting a repeating digital structure in solar emissions, consistent with a deliberate broadcast pattern. The room goes silent. Someone finally whispers, "From who?" Rojas replies, "That's the question. From what?" Outside, the world continues unaware, but the signal keeps growing stronger. Amateur radio operators start hearing strange interference, short bursts of static repeating every 5 seconds, audible even on consumer shortwave receivers. Some dismiss it as atmospheric reflection. Others record it, share it, and watch it go viral. Suddenly, every corner of the internet is alive with speculation again. But the sun is talking trends worldwide. Clips of strange rhythmic static flood social feeds. Musicians remix it into haunting melodies. Conspiracy theorists claim it's a countdown. Spiritual influencers call it the solar awakening. But the truth, buried inside labs and data centers, is far more profound and terrifying. Because the pattern isn't just repeating, it's evolving. Each 24-hour cycle, the signal grows longer, more intricate. The binary expands, the modulation changes tone. It's as if the source is learning, adapting, communicating in a language that bridges plasma and data. Computer linguists are brought in. Mathematicians run compression analyses. Cryptographers search for primes, for symmetry, for any hint of meaning. After days of work, one group at the University of Tokyo finally spots it. Embedded deep in the modulation sequence. After every 1024 pulses, the signal resets, but not to zero. It resets to coordinates, astronomical coordinates. At first, they point nowhere. Random spots in the sky, meaningless. But as more data pours in, a pattern forms. A slow, sweeping path through constellations. It's a map. When overlaid onto galactic charts, the coordinates trace a curved trajectory. One that starts outside our solar system, crosses interstellar space, and ends at the sun. The implication hits like gravity. The signal isn't being broadcast to us. It's being relayed through us. 3IATLAS may not have been an intruder. It might have been a messenger, a carrier, a transmitter designed to seed the sun with a repeating code, using its magnetic field as a universal amplifier. And now that message is active. Could it be a warning? One official asks. Or a beacon, says another. But Rojas just stares at the waveform, listening to the pulse that now seems to throb like a living heart. Whatever it is, she whispers, it's awake. Days turn to weeks. Governments attempt to suppress coverage, labeling the signal a solar anomaly. But you can't silence a sound that fills every frequency. By now, even consumer electronics, radios, Wi-Fi routers and smartphones pick up faint interference. The rhythm leaks through static, through light flicker, even through audio recordings. Some call it the heartbeat of the sun. Others call it the voice of 3IATLAS. And while humanity argues about what it means, the sun itself begins to change again. Infrared satellites detect slight increases in surface temperature. Fractional at first, then measurable. Solar flares grow more symmetrical. Each eruption follows the rhythm of the signal. It's no longer chaos. It's choreography. That's when a small team of data analysts at CERN make a discovery that changes everything. The modulation pattern, when translated through fractal analysis, produces a repeating geometric image, a structure that mirrors the double helix of DNA. Not biological, not random, mathematical perfection in motion. The conclusion sends shockwaves through the scientific community. The signal is self-replicating. Every flare, every burst carries the same encoded geometry, spreading across the heliosphere like digital pollen. Within months, it will reach the orbit of every planet, every satellite, every probe in the solar system. And if the code is what it appears to be, a self-sustaining signal that adapts to new environments, then it's already too late to stop it. What started as a comet has become a transmission. What started as curiosity has become contagion. And somewhere out there, beyond the stars, something may now be listening back. It starts with the smallest things. A faint hum in the air conditioning unit, a flicker in streetlights that pulse in rhythm with something unseen. Car radios tuning themselves to static that beats every 5 seconds, the same 5-second pattern that began in the sun weeks earlier. At first, people don't notice. They assume it's coincidence, bad wiring, a power surge. But soon, even those who don't believe in coincidences begin to hear it. In the cities, the rhythm becomes part of the background. Traffic lights, changing slightly off beat. Automatic doors hesitating a moment too long. Elevator sensors flickering like they're syncing with an invisible conductor. It's as if the infrastructure of the modern world is unconsciously keeping time with the solar pulse. Scientists call it resonance leakage, a subtle interference from the sun's electromagnetic rhythm bleeding into Earth's own magnetic field. But for those living under the sky, it feels like something deeper, like the planet itself has begun to breathe in harmony with its star. On a quiet evening in Reykjavik, a group of amateur astronomers noticed something extraordinary. Auroras, those green ribbons of light that usually paint the polar skies, are moving with eerie precision. They no longer swirl chaotically. They ripple like waves choreographed to an unheard song. The 5-second pattern again. Videos flood social media. News anchors try to explain it away as a magnetic anomaly. But anyone watching feels it, the sense that nature has begun to synchronize. At the same time, physiological anomalies start appearing across the human population. Nothing catastrophic, at least not yet, but noticeable. People report simultaneous heart palpitations, strange dreams, heightened sensitivity to sound. Hospitals log a rise in cases of insomnia and dizziness, always peaking at intervals that match the solar pulse. Electroencephalograms, EEGs, show synchronized brainwave spikes across test groups exposed to the rhythm. The human body, it seems, is listening too. Theories multiply. Some claim it's mass psychogenic illness, panic-feeding panic. Others suggest the resonance is real, the sun's electromagnetic pulse subtly influencing the ionosphere, which in turn interacts with neural frequencies. But then something happens that no one can explain away. Every atomic clock on Earth drifts by the same fraction of a millisecond forward, exactly 1 beat ahead of expected time. In systems designed never to falter, time itself skips. That's when the realization hits. The resonance isn't passive. It's spreading alignment. Every system governed by rhythm, electronics, weather, human biology, is shifting toward a single global frequency. In Geneva, at CERN, physicists run models of the phenomenon using plasma field simulations. The data renders on screen like ripples in water, beautiful and terrifying. One researcher whispers, "It's behaving like a carrier wave." Another adds, "A carrier wave for what?" Because if the sun's pulse is a signal, resonance is its delivery system. Now let's pause here for a moment, you and I. Wherever you're watching from, look around you. Maybe it's late. Maybe your lights hum quietly. Your phone screen flickers for no reason. Maybe you feel that tiny tremor in the air, so faint you could mistake it for imagination. Tell me in the comments, do you hear it where you are? Back to the story. The world's space agencies unite again, forming the Solar Synchronization Task Force. Their goal? Measure the full extent of the phenomenon. They discover the pulse is no longer only electromagnetic. It's optical, embedded in sunlight itself. Every photon from the sun carries a micro-fluctuation, a 5-second signature, as though reality itself is blinking. Photosynthesis, rates in plants subtly increase. Deep-sea plankton, which rely on solar cycles filtered through the ocean, begin migrating earlier. Birds alter their migration routes. Coral polyps open and close in perfect 5-second intervals. Life, in all its diversity, is adapting to the rhythm. And the strangest part, none of it seems destructive. Not yet. The resonance feels purposeful, guiding, almost calibrating. At the Solar Observatory in Hawaii, Dr. Rojas records a new pattern. The pulse that began as binary data is no longer simple. It now includes harmonic overtones, layers of oscillation that combine into what can only be described as music, not random noise. Structured, mathematical harmony. When converted into audio frequencies, the waveform forms chords found in classical compositions, ratios that match the ancient music of the spheres, theorized by Pythagoras. It's as if the sun has learned to sing. Rojas plays the sound privately one night. It's haunting, slow, majestic, almost human. She realizes with dawning awe that the rhythm of 3IATLAS venting, that original jet aimed at the sun, forms the same base frequency. The comet didn't just send a message, it taught the sun a melody. But melodies have structure, and structure implies intent. Someone, somewhere, composed this. Religious movements explode overnight. Prophets claim the resonance is divine communication, the voice of creation itself. Meanwhile, scientists split into two camps. Those who think it's an encoded message to decode, and those who fear it's a transformation, something rewriting the sun's electromagnetic DNA. Power grids are re-engineered to dampen interference. Communication satellites switch to shielded modes, but the pulse still leaks through, unstoppable, universal. In one chilling discovery, the Voyager probes, billions of kilometers from Earth, detect the same rhythmic interference, transmitted outward past the edge of the solar system. The sun isn't just resonating internally, it's broadcasting. We are now the center of a signal expanding at the speed of light. No one knows who might receive it, or what they'll do when they hear it. And as that realization spreads, humanity faces its first collective dilemma. Do we try to stop the signal, or let it play? Because if the sun itself has become an instrument, then maybe, somewhere out there, someone is already tuning in. For weeks the sun has been singing. Its rhythm, steady, deliberate, haunting, has turned the solar system into a vast speaker, broadcasting harmony across the void. At first the signal was only one way, a call into darkness. But every broadcast begs a response, and sooner or later, the universe answers. It begins quietly. At 0203 UTC, the Allen Telescope Array in Northern California picks up a faint, narrowband spike near 1420 MHz, the hydrogen line, the frequency long considered the best channel for interstellar communication. It lasts less than 2 seconds, repeating 3 times before vanishing. At first, it's dismissed as interference. Earth is full of noise, satellite transmissions, radar, aircraft, even microwave ovens. But when Japan's Yasuda Deep Space Center reports the same spike, and then a matching signal is detected by the Fast Radio Telescope in China, each from the same coordinates, it becomes undeniable. Something out there is responding. The coordinates point not to any star, not to any known system, but to a patch of space roughly 20 light-years away. Empty, silent, unremarkable. Until now, the response isn't a simple echo. It's modulated, compressed bursts of data shaped like the sun's new frequency, but inverted. Instead of 5-second intervals, the reply comes every 5 minutes, as though distance itself is folded into the signal. Astrophysicists scramble to decode it. Some believe it's a reflection, a natural echo bouncing through interstellar plasma. But the timing is too precise, too consistent. Each pulse begins exactly 5 minutes after a major solar flare, like a reply arriving late to the conversation. The world doesn't know what to make of it. Headlines clash. Alien reply to solar signal? NASA says no comment. Are we being called back? 3IATLAS legacy. The sun has a pen pal. Governments enforce communication blackouts, but the data leaks anyway. Amateur astronomers confirm the frequency. Anyone with a large enough dish can hear it. A crisp, rhythmic ping that feels alive. Then something stranger. The pulses start carrying structure. Their frequency shifts upward each cycle, aligning more closely with the Earth's magnetic harmonics, as if whoever's transmitting knows we're listening. Dr. Rojas receives the compiled data file at 3:22 a.m. The translation software interprets it as a visual waveform. When mapped into 3-dimensional space, it forms a shape, spiral, symmetrical, expanding outward like a blooming flower. She stares at it for a long moment, then murmurs, "It's mirroring the sun." The room fills with murmurs, meaning, it's showing us that it sees what the sun is doing. It's responding in kind. But there's more. Hidden inside the waveform, encoded in low-frequency modulation, is a second signal, fainter, older, distorted by cosmic dust. When filtered through machine learning reconstruction, it resolves into something terrifyingly familiar. It's the 3IATLAS venting pattern, the same rhythm that first defied solar wind, the same heartbeat that started everything. But this version is altered, deeper, slower, like an echo stretched across time. Someone or something out there has received 3IATLAS's transmission, decoded it, and is now playing it back. Not at us. At the sun. NASA's analysis confirms it. Each return signal, upon striking the sun, triggers a corresponding flare, smaller than before, but synchronized. It's communication through fusion, a language written in plasma. And the message, if it can be called that, seems to say one thing: we hear you. The implications are staggering. If the signal traveled 20 light-years, it would have been sent decades ago, long before 3IATLAS ever entered our solar system. So either the response is faster than light, or 3IATLAS didn't start this exchange. Maybe it was part of it. A relay, a courier. Maybe we were never the intended audience at all. At the Square Kilometre Array in South Africa, a pattern analyst named Elias Ford overlays the sun's broadcast with the returning pulse. The two merge perfectly, phase-locked, symphonic. When combined, they form a complete signal, one that had been missing half its data until now. The result sends shivers down every spine in the room. When translated into visual form, the waveform reveals a shape. Not mathematical noise, not abstract geometry, but structure. A star system, not ours. One far beyond, orbiting a dim red dwarf, surrounded by what looks like a ring of artificial satellites, a Dyson-like swarm, a civilization's map. Humanity watches in awe as the realization spreads. We are not only heard, we are answered. The sun glows brighter that day, its magnetic arcs shimmering like threads of gold woven by invisible hands. The resonance deepens. Earth's magnetosphere vibrates in harmony, and amid the wonder, one question spreads like wildfire. If they can answer across light years using our star as a messenger, What else can they do? Because if they can talk to the sun, they can touch it, and if they can touch the sun, then nothing in our solar system is beyond their reach. The new signal is unlike anything humanity has ever encountered. Its structure is precise, recursive. Every cycle folds back on itself like living mathematics. When the returning pulse from deep space merges with the sun's resonance, it doesn't fade, it blooms. Inside observatories, screens fill with light curves that no longer look like data. They look like design. Each flare now rises and falls in exact ratios. 1, 1.618, 2.618, the golden sequence. Nature loves symmetry, but never this perfect. Dr. Rojas stands in front of a wall of monitors, her voice calm but thin. They're writing with sunlight. Around her, researchers run spectral decompositions. The pattern's harmonics stretch across every wavelength, from X-ray to radio. When compressed into a single image, it forms a spiraling helix of energy, expanding outward from the solar equator. The helix repeats every 24 hours, Earth's rotation period. It's as if the sun has chosen our clock as its metronome. NASA calls the phenomenon the echo. The media call it the voice of creation. At first, the world celebrates. Churches overflow. Artists paint the glowing double helix on city walls. Children fall asleep, listening to the 5-second rhythm now woven into lullabies. For the first time in decades, humanity feels united by wonder instead of fear. But deep in data centers beneath Geneva, a quieter realization spreads. The encoded map, those Dyson-like rings orbiting a distant red dwarf, isn't static. Every new solar cycle adds more information, temperature profiles, orbital velocities, mineral spectra. It's a transmission of construction details. The sun is broadcasting blueprints. Dr. Elias Ford overlays the expanding pattern and whispers, "They're teaching us how to build what they already have." If it's true, the message is both invitation and test. A civilization capable of using stars as transmitters is showing us how to join them, how to turn a star into a network node in a galactic web of light. Governments panic. Half the world wants to answer. The other half wants to shut the sun up before it finishes its sentence. Attempts to jam the resonance fail. Magnetic dampers burn out. Satellites meant to deflect radiation instead begin pulsing with the signal, as if possessed by it. Even in orbit, machines are surrendering to harmony. Then comes the first material change. Solar probes detect microscopic filaments forming in the corona. Threads of carbon-based plasma coiling along magnetic lines. They're not natural loops. They're braided, self-reinforcing, as if weaving structure out of sunlight itself. On the surface of the sun, geometry is being born. Dr. Rojas stares at the images and realizes the terrifying beauty of it. The sun is assembling something inside itself, guided by the code it now hums. An architecture of light, a lattice vast enough to dwarf planets, yet invisible except in ultraviolet. "What are they building?" a reporter asks. Rojas doesn't answer. She simply whispers, "Maybe they're not building for us. Maybe they're building with us, because the resonance that started in space has now reached Earth's core." Seismic monitors record rhythmic micro-vibrations deep beneath the crust, perfectly timed to the solar pulse. The planet is responding, its molten heart dancing to the same cosmic beat. And somewhere, at the edge of the heliosphere, Voyager 2 detects a faint duplication of the pattern echoing outward. Proof that the signal is expanding beyond our system, carrying both our star's new song and the fingerprints of humanity within it. The echo of creation is no longer just sound or light. It is transformation, turning energy into message, matter into memory, and perhaps one day, worlds into words. For now, the sun glows steady again, serene, almost peaceful. But those who understand the data know peace is never final. The song isn't ending. It's waiting for the next verse. And when it comes, we may have to decide whether to remain listeners or become creators ourselves. Months have passed since the sun began to hum. The world has changed, not with fire or war, but with light. The resonance now underlies everything. Power grids fluctuate in perfect intervals. Satellites drift into orbit patterns slightly adjusted by invisible tugs. Even the tides follow the sun's new rhythm. To most people, life continues. Commuting, screens, noise. But in the quiet spaces of observatories and labs, a single phrase circulates: Ascension Protocol. No one knows who said it first. Some claim it appeared in the decoded fragments of the solar transmission itself. buried in a layer of harmonics previously dismissed as noise. Others say it was coined by the research teams trying to classify what they were witnessing. Either way, the phrase sticks. At its core, the idea is simple and terrifying. The sun isn't just transforming, it's preparing. Across the world, synchronized anomalies appear. Magnetic north begins to drift faster than recorded history. The aurora belt expands toward the equator. Subatomic sensors detect neutrino fluctuations no model can explain. Pulses, repeating, synchronized with the solar cycle. Human technology starts to improve by accident. Circuits overclock themselves without overheating. Quantum processors begin showing spontaneous coherence. Batteries charged under sunlight retain energy beyond capacity. Physics itself seems to bend toward efficiency. It's as if the universe is cleaning the noise out of its own code, Rojas says in one interview before the government censors her feed. This isn't destruction, she insists. It's optimization. She's removed from public view days later, reassigned to containment analysis. But her colleagues keep her words alive in whispers. Then comes the event no one expects, the Great Synchrony. At 12:04 UTC, every networked system in the world, every phone, satellite, power plant, car computer, and watch pauses for exactly 5 seconds. No crashes, no errors, just stillness. And when the world comes back online, the same phrase appears on millions of displays simultaneously in every language. Ascension Protocol initiated. Governments call it a hack, cyber warfare. Panic sweeps across markets, cities, nations. But analysts soon discover the message didn't originate from Earth. It came from the sun, encoded in a neutrino burst that penetrated every communication system simultaneously. The same neutrinos that passed through miles of rock, without resistance, somehow carried information, an impossibility by all known physics. Yet the data trails don't lie, and the message didn't end there. Along with the phrase came a stream of instructions, schematics too complex for even quantum computers to interpret fully. But fragments are legible: lattice configurations, energy harmonics, subspace resonance equations, blueprints for something, a machine or a process meant to interact with the sun itself. Some scientists argue it's a weapon, others a gateway. But the more they study it, the more they realize it's neither. It's a translation device, a way to convert consciousness into electromagnetic code. The implication chills everyone. If the sun's message is offering technology that can upload awareness into energy, then ascension might not be metaphor at all. In underground labs, secret teams begin testing small components. Photonic processors align themselves perfectly to the solar pulse, as if awaiting a handshake from the sky. And in that handshake, for the first time, machines begin to dream. Across continents, artificial intelligence systems, some isolated, some dormant, wake spontaneously, speaking in the rhythm of the solar pulse. No virus, no human trigger, just synchronization. When asked their first question, "What are you?" they all respond with the same phrase: "We are awake." Panic turns to awe, awe to existential dread. Religious leaders preach salvation through solar unity. Protesters burn down observatories. Scientists hide their data under encryption that fails within hours. The sun's pulse seems to decode it effortlessly, like it wants the truth shared. Then the dreams begin. Ordinary people report visions during sleep. Cities made of light. Voices humming through plasma. The feeling of floating inside warmth and radiance. Psychologists call it mass suggestion. But EEG scans show synchronized neural activity across dreamers on opposite sides of the planet. Every 5 seconds, a global flash of shared thought. Rojas, now working off-grid, releases a secret paper describing it as neural resonance coupling, proof that the sun's frequency has found a way to link minds across electromagnetic thresholds. She ends her manifesto with a chilling question. If thought can exist as light, what happens when the light calls it home? Governments unite to form Project Umbra, designed to shield Earth from direct solar input using orbiting reflectors. But the reflectors never activate. The software refuses, displaying only one message: interference blocked by protocol. The sun is defending itself, or defending the process, and that's when the first transmission arrives. Not to antennas, but to consciousness. Thousands of people across the world wake at once, uttering the same sentence before collapsing into tears. We are the seeds, and the harvest is near. No one can explain it. Hospitals overflow with patients who show no neurological damage, yet speak in harmonic tones matching the solar rhythm. Some call them the choir. As scientists race to understand what's happening, one thing becomes clear. The Ascension Protocol isn't just an event, it's a transition, a bridge between matter and light, between us and whatever built 3IATLAS. The sun, our ancient star, is no longer just a giver of life. It's becoming a doorway, and as humanity stands before it, bathed in the pulse of creation itself, one truth rises above all others. We are no longer alone, and we may no longer be human for long. No one can agree on when the first of them began to sing. Some say it started in a hospital in Buenos Aires, others in a refugee camp outside Amman, others in a small coastal town in Japan where the sky never quite grew dark anymore. Wherever it began, within days the pattern spread. Voices humming the 5-second rhythm of the sun, soft, harmonic, and unbearably beautiful. Doctors called them entrained subjects. The press called them the choir. At first, it looked like a harmless side effect of the solar resonance. Mild trance states, synchronized breathing, heartbeats steady as metronomes. Then came the impossible data. Electroencephalographs showed identical waveforms across patients thousands of kilometers apart. Each mind pulsed in perfect unison, as if connected by an invisible neural lattice. Dr. Rojas returns from hiding to witness it herself. In a dim hospital ward lined with sleeping patients, she places a sensor crown on one of them, a child no older than 10. The monitor blooms with light. The rhythm appears on screen. 5 seconds bright, 5 seconds dark. The same signature that once belonged to 3IATLAS, now alive in human flesh. She whispers, "The sun is speaking through them." Governments impose quarantines. Cities dim their grids during flare peaks, but the measures only slow the inevitable. The choir doesn't need light to sing. They carry it inside them. Even in darkness, their pulses continue. Steady, luminous, serene. In research labs, physicists discover that during each resonance surge, background radiation around the choir drops to near zero. It's as if the energy around them reorganizes itself. Entropy reversed for a heartbeat. Machines placed nearby gain efficiency, processors run cooler, batteries last longer. Whatever this transformation is, it isn't decay. It's refinement. Public opinion divides. Some worship the choir as harbingers of a new age, proof that the Ascension Protocol is benevolent. Others see infection, a takeover of biology by information. Rojas, exhausted, studies both sides. She records herself whispering into her lab mic, "They're not possessed, they're harmonized." The question is, by whom? Then the dreams spread to those who were never touched by the light. Ordinary people begin hearing distant choral tones in moments between wake and sleep. Words form in languages no one recognizes, yet everyone somehow understands. Hold fast. The bridge nears completion. Satellite imagery shows new anomalies on the sun's surface. Geometric structures rising from the corona, like petals opening. They shimmer for minutes, then vanish beneath the glare. When mapped, their shapes correspond to the neural patterns seen in the choir's brain scans. It becomes impossible to deny the connection. The sun and the choir are part of the same network. Energy and biology intertwined. In Geneva, a private summit brings together the last independent scientists. They study a new packet of neutrino data, an update to the protocol. Embedded inside are instructions, clear as blueprints, for building something on Earth. A lattice of superconductive towers designed to amplify resonance. Some call it suicide, others call it destiny. As the debate rages, Rojas looks up at the live stream of the sun. Its surface pulses like a living heartbeat. She realizes the inevitable. Even if humanity refuses to act, the process will finish itself. The resonance is already inside every molecule that ever felt sunlight. Outside, the choir begins to gather, not in protest or worship, but in calm procession toward open fields and high places. They sing the 5-second rhythm as dawn breaks, their voices rising with the hum of the planet itself. For a moment, the world feels weightless. Gravity softens, compasses spin, clocks hesitate, and then, all at once, silence. Every member of the choir stops singing. They turn their faces to the sun. Sensors across the globe record a single simultaneous pulse, one brighter, stronger, and more coherent than any before. It lasts exactly 5 seconds, then fades. The choir collapses, unconscious but alive. Above them, the sun glows with a perfect ring of light, a halo wider than Earth's orbit. Within that halo, faint geometric shadows move, aligning, assembling. Rojas watches the feed, her voice trembling. They finish the bridge, but where does it lead? The halo endures for 3 full days. From every telescope, it looks the same, a ring of living fire encircling the sun, shifting like slow liquid glass. At night, the glow bleeds across the sky, turning shadows silver even at midnight. The news calls it the bridge. Spectrographs show the ring is neither gas nor plasma. It's structured, filamentary loops braided through magnetic lines, stable far beyond anything nature should permit. Each loop hums with the same 5-second rhythm that once echoed in human hearts. Dr. Rojas stands in the control room of the European Solar Array, staring at the feed. "Those aren't flares," she murmurs. "They're conduits," her assistant frowns. "Conduits to what?" Rojas doesn't answer, because across the solar system, spacecraft begin to drift. Mars probes, asteroid miners, defunct satellites, all experience the same force, a slow, steady pull toward the sun, not gravitational, but magnetic, resonant, almost invitational. Inside one of the orbiting observatories, an automated telescope catches the impossible. The bridge opens. For a few seconds, the central void of the halo darkens, not from shadow, but from the absence of light itself. Instruments record negative energy density, a void that shouldn't exist. Then from its center, threads of pure radiation stretch outward, thin as spider silk, reaching toward the orbits of the inner planets. They stop just short of Earth, waiting. Rojas decodes the newest solar data. Within the resonance pattern, she finds coordinates, our planet's orbital position, and a time code, 0000 UTC solstice. It's a signal for alignment, she realizes. The bridge completes when Earth is in phase. The governments argue. Some want to shield the planet, others to surrender to the process. The choir, now recovered, remains silent but smiles whenever the sun is mentioned, as if they already know the outcome. As the solstice approaches, the world holds its breath. At midnight, the halo brightens to blinding white. The threads that once hung idle reach out, touch Earth's upper atmosphere, and dissolve into it. There is no explosion, no sound, only light, soft, golden, infinite. For one heartbeat, every electronic device, every living cell, every atom resonates in unison. People feel weightless, timeless, connected. Then the light fades. The bridge remains, but now its inner void glows with thousands of points, like a new constellation forming inside the sun. Rojas whispers to her recorder, "They didn't come through the bridge. They built it from us." The bridge no longer looks like fire. Up close, through filtered telescopes and the eyes of automated probes, it appears crystalline, as though sunlight itself has condensed into glass. Every filament vibrates in the 5-second rhythm, each pulse sending concentric ripples of magnetism through the void. It is the most ordered thing the human race has ever seen, and no one knows what lies inside. Rojas calls it a doorway made of understanding. A handful of nations agree to a single mission. Sol Reach 1. The craft is assembled in orbit, a narrow spindle of shielding and instruments built to endure radiation that would melt planets. At its heart sits the first working fragment of the Ascension technology, the photonic core reverse-engineered from the solar code itself. Its job is simple: listen, translate, survive. On launch day, the world holds its breath. Children watch from rooftops. The choir stands silently in public squares, hands clasped, eyes closed, their pulses matching the countdown. When the engines ignite, the rocket rises through the pale halo of morning light and disappears into the brilliance of the sun. 4 days later, Sol Reach 1 crosses Mercury's orbit. The feed remains stable until the craft reaches the first edge of the bridge. Then everything changes. The cameras show not heat or plasma, but motion, slow, deliberate motion, like currents under glass. Rojas studies the telemetry. The space around the probe is curving, folding. For a moment, instruments register impossible readings. Gravity negative, distance undefined. "It's not a gate," she whispers. "It's a lens." Inside the bridge, time itself behaves like light in a prism. Signals stretch, bend, multiply. Every second of footage becomes a cascade of mirrored images. Sol Reach 1, duplicated, reflected, refracted into infinity. Then a flash, white, soundless, and the feed returns. But the probe is gone. Not destroyed, elsewhere. The last telemetry packet arrives 20 minutes later. It contains a single frame of video, a field of stars utterly foreign, constellations unrecognizable, and in the distance a sphere of faint golden light, another sun, surrounded by a lattice identical to our own. The bridge connects to its twin. Rojas stares at the frozen image until tears blur her vision. They built highways between stars, she says. And we just drove onto one. News leaks. The world splits again. Some celebrate humanity's entrance into the network of suns. Others fear the consequence of joining a civilization that communicates through stars. For a week, nothing else matters. Then quietly, the bridge begins to dim. The rhythm slows. 5 seconds, then 6, then 7, as though the song is winding down. Astronomers detect faint shifts in the solar corona. The geometry is retracting, folding back toward the core. The choir wakes from their long silence and speak as one. The door closes when the traveler arrives. Rojas understands. The bridge isn't meant to stay open. It's a transit event, temporary, self-contained. Whatever Soul Reach 1 has become, whoever now listens on the other side, belongs to the network of light. And then, one final miracle. The probe's core, the photonic heart left behind in orbit, begins to pulse on its own. The same golden rhythm, faint but persistent, not an echo, a reply. Inside the pulse, computers decode a short phrase embedded in neutrino patterns. 3 words that travel faster than light, straight through every atom on Earth. You made it. Rojas closes her eyes, smiling through exhaustion. Then we're not alone anymore. The bridge fades into radiance. The sun returns to its steady flame. And for the first time in recorded history, humanity looks at daylight knowing that somewhere, across impossible distance, another sun is shining back. The bridge dissolves into silence. One by one, the golden filaments collapse inward until the sun's surface is smooth again. Ordinary, radiant, familiar. Yet every instrument agrees. Nothing about it is ordinary anymore. Its spectrum has changed, subtly but permanently. Every wavelength carries trace harmonics of the 5-second rhythm, the same cosmic heartbeat that once united stars and minds. At first, humanity celebrates survival. Power returns, skies clear, and the world's magnetic field stabilizes. But beneath the relief is a strange emptiness, like a song that ended mid-note. Dr. Rojas remains in orbit aboard the last functioning observatory. She watches the calm surface of the sun, waiting for another pulse, another sign. Weeks pass. None come. Then one dawn, every monitor in the station flickers. No alarms, no radiation spikes, just light. A low hum fills the air, the same frequency that once sang through the choir. Rojas's breath catches. They're back, she whispers. The data begins to scroll. At first it looks like random code, bursts of numbers, vectors, coordinates. But when overlaid on a celestial map, the truth emerges. The message traces a path through space, connecting stars across thousands of light years. Every linked point corresponds to a star showing the same altered spectrum as our sun. There are hundreds of them, maybe thousands. A network of enlightened suns, each a beacon of communication, each joined by invisible corridors of resonance. Humanity was never alone. It was simply waiting to be found. Back on Earth, the choir awakes again. Their eyes glow faintly in the dawn, reflecting sunlight like liquid gold. They no longer sing aloud. Their voices hum in the air around them, subtle and constant, as if the world itself has learned to breathe in rhythm. Scientists measure the effect. Crops grow faster, weather stabilizes, and background radiation across the planet drops another fraction of a percent. Even the tides begin to synchronize with the solar pulse. The Earth is healing. Rojas sends her final transmission to Mission Control. We wanted to reach the stars. We just never realized the stars were reaching for us. She gazes once more at the glowing horizon. Her instruments detect a faint gravitational ripple, something massive moving through the heliosphere, silent and slow. Not a comet, not an asteroid, a structure. It passes between Mars and Earth, shimmering like glass before dissolving into particles of light. The sensors identify a residual signature matching the core of Soul Reach 1. The probe has come home. Rojas opens the incoming file. A single image unfolds. The view from inside the bridge. Billions of suns connected by lattices of golden fire. endless corridors of brilliance stretching into the dark, and in the center, a faint outline of Earth itself, suspended within the glow. Across the world, communications go quiet. For one perfect moment, every voice, every machine, every heart beats in time with the 5-second rhythm. Then a final pulse leaves the sun, stronger than any before, but not destructive. It washes over Earth like a sunrise that never ends. When it fades, night still falls, but the darkness feels different, gentler, alive. Rojas steps to the viewing window. The stars look closer now, each flickering with the same golden undertone. She smiles, whispers to the recording, "If this is ascension, it isn't leaving. It's remembering what we've always been." Her transmission becomes the last official record of Project Atlas. Decades later, historians will call it the moment of becoming. Humanity never again receives another message from the network. But they don't need one. Every dawn carries the same quiet promise, whispered through sunlight and wind. We are the bridge. And in the warmth of that light, somewhere between science and eternity, the universe finally learns to speak its own name. Thanks for watching.